What are you seeing on, there's music, sports, corporate. Who is a rising, I don't know if you call it genre or what's rising? Are you seeing anything that we maybe, haven't seen yet?
I do think coming out of COVID and everything, we really appreciate activities. We appreciate concerts, we appreciate doing things, and what you guys do and so many others, you provide that experience. I want to document this experience. I want to remember this, and I want to do this. So we're seeing that really healthy. I mean, it's like events are happening, sports are happening, concerts, as you guys are so focused on, thank God, are back and really thriving. No.
We live below the fold. We live underneath those incredible brands.
What is the vision? Right? So there's a story, but then it's like, where are you trying to go? If it's compelling enough, then you start to get people to believe in it.
All right, we're live. We're here again. Carlo, what's up?
What's up, man? Good to be back.
All right, we have a very special guest today from a company I know everybody knows, one of the biggest distributors in the world.
Sure.
Country?
Sure. Country
Yeah,
for
definitely
sure.
the
Country for
country.
sure. I think the world, just because I think
Definitely country.
outside of the U.S. it gets pretty.
Let's go with
much
the world.
smaller. Let's go world. Let's go world.
Let's go with biggest distributors in the world.
In the world.
Sounds
Yeah.
better, just so much,
Crisp.
snappy.
It's like a
Hot
bite
off
there.
the open house too, I was gonna say.
That's right.
Hot off the
Straight
open
up
house
open
in
house
Chicago.
here in Chicago,
Yep.
live in Chicago.
Yep.
David Clifton is joining us. Welcome, man. How's it going?
Great. We've had a great day. We had a great open house at our distribution center here in Chicago. A few hundred customers showed up, toured the facility, met some great folks from our brands we sell, and great day. Great lunch, great barbecue.
Give us an idea.
I'm from Texas, so the barbecue was like good for Chicago.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
okay. It wasn't horrible.
Give us an idea on the size of this building, the Chicago distribution center.
Yeah. So it is 700,000 square feet.
Wow.
We have about 300 folks who work in the building. We ship out of there about 1.3 million units a week. And that's around 38,000 orders a week.
Wow.
And 55,000 cases a week.
Wow.
So it all kind of adds
Some
up.
serious volume.
Serious volume, yeah.
What is that's chaos.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important to have these conversations just for our team to feel comfort in what they do, because it can be done at an absolute massive scale. So thank you for that. I think that just level sets. Okay, this is what we're talking about.
Yeah, no, it is massive. There's a lot of moving parts to it, but it can be done, and we strive to do it as well as we can. And we know we're a critical link in the whole value chain, and that mechanic of getting those orders in, getting those products out, we know we're a critical element in the chain.
Yep.
They don't go, something doesn't happen.
Yeah,
If it don't go, we miss the show.
You got it.
Yeah.
There you have it. There you have it. And we recognize
you can clip that, Michelle.
So we take it super seriously. So we've been in the process of putting robots in all of our facilities to help automate, improve quality, improve accuracy, improve on-time ship, which is a critical metric for us, and also more importantly, probably improve the life balance of the folks who work there. Giving them predictive schedules, things like that. So it's been a really cool thing to see technology kind of come in and leverage technology to give us even more scale.
So I know we got to talk a little bit beforehand, and I learned that you're also a tech guy. I'm a self-prescribed, I guess you'd say.
Tech guru.
Yeah, self-prescribed IT guy here. But I'm interested in going just a little bit deeper on. Obviously, a facility of that size has to be powered by technology. But give me, is there something on the software side? I know everybody's doing the robot thing, but is there something that is unique that you guys have built that we could go just 2 layers deeper?
Sure. We use an ERP system that it's FDM4. It's pretty niche, but niche for this space. And if in the wholesale space, FDM4, a lot of folks use it. They have a WMS, a warehouse management system that we leverage, and that warehouse management system really is the central brain system of our logistics, if you will, kind of the internal building logistics. So all the orders, how they get dropped into the warehouse, those mechanics are run by our warehouse management system.
Got it.
And so that warehouse management system intersects with the Locus robotic technology, which really allows us to have the robots meet our pickers at the location. So instead of our pickers walking all over the place, they're walking, instead of walking 2 or 3 miles, they're walking 200 or 300 feet, and the robots are able to meet them there, get the items, get the materials, take that to a central drop-off location, and just speeds up the whole operation and allows, again, like a better work-life balance and a better physical balance for the team there in the distribution center. So technology really underpins all of it. Mm-hmm. And it's constantly trying to kind of refine it, and looking at order sizes and things like that. So over the last 10 years, the size of orders continues to decline, except during just after COVID, we saw when supply chains were completely constrained, we saw order sizes ramp up for a small
give us an
amount of
idea
time.
on numbers.
Our average order size is about 188 pieces.
Okay. All right.
So and then that's kind of the average, but that's kind of maybe down from 210, 215.
Okay.
So they kind of are moving in that direction. Again,
but not like drastic, not as like
Well, it's hard to
drastic.
they're not
compare.
going from 188 to 60.
Yeah.
But
okay.
they're kind of moving in that direction.
It's hard to compare anything to the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Right?
It is, and I think it's
so
dangerous.
inflated.
It's been a weird couple years.
You got to look at 2019
19. Right.
as
We
your
compare.
as
We
your
are always
mark, and sort of
comparing.
say this is what it. And the good news is, I think as an industry goes, I think we're still well ahead of 2019. I think we blew past it, obviously, kind of artificially in 2021, 2022. But as 2023 has kind of settled in, and we've refilled the channel, and we've kind of gotten things back on track, it's great to look back at 2019 and say, boy, we're better. We're doing better than what we were doing back then. Yeah. And we've gotten a lot better at it. It kind of forced us to do all kinds of things the last couple of years. And I think that we're going to take the good and keep it and get rid of the bad and push it aside, but it's made us smarter. And I think overall we see a better business on the other side of it. But yeah, the last 2 years, you can't look at many of those metrics and sort of say, yeah. And if you do, you're going to be really disappointed. So don't do it.
Yeah, it is hard. I was going to say on the technology side, it's like so many people fight it, but once you don't have it, you can see how much it really like disrupts your day to day. Like for us, and we have our proprietary technology, and I think you guys had an issue this morning too. We had a little bit of an internet issue this morning, and it's funny. Everyone runs to Rich, our engineer Oscar, was like,
"Hey, did you know the
fix the
platform's
internet
down?
Like fix the internet."
Did you know the platform's down?
Like,
yeah,
dude,
yeah.
It's
It's
the
not
internet.
the platform. It's silly AP up on the wall
Yeah.
that's having an issue.
But my point is like, everyone uses the platform to put orders in, to manage production, and when there's a bad connection and you can't get to the platform, everyone's like, "What do I do?
What do I do now?
What do we do?
What happens?"
So in one aspect, it's like it's a great thing. It has that much stickiness. Right?
Well, you do become very dependent on it.
Yeah.
And we are dependent on it. Our situation this morning, our power went off in our distribution center. Of course, we have a few hundred customers lining up to come in and see our facility.
On open house day.
Naturally,
Oh my
8
God.
o'clock in the morning, I get an email.
Jeez.
And I'm like, you can't make this up, really? I
No,
mean, seriously?
you
And
can't make this up.
our CIO is actually here for the open house. He spent the entire time in a war room getting this thing fixed. We had a router bust down and break, and but the guys, to their credit, they kind of, and interesting enough, the robots are actually on their own network. So the robots could still function. We just couldn't feed them the data. So it's a bit of a trade-off between, do we want these robots just going and doing stuff that we know they need to do?
Wash my car.
Right. Clean some stuff up. We did do a bunch of cleanup.
Yeah.
But you do become very dependent on the technology. But I would say that, you do, as frightening as it is, you need to embrace it, and you guys have here, which is really cool to see. And I think it speaks to the your guys' effectiveness in what you do, and a differentiation you guys can provide. It's really cool.
What are you seeing on? There's music, sports, corporate. Who is a rising? I don't know if you call it genre or what's rising? Are you seeing anything that we maybe haven't seen yet?
Sure. Well, I think again, I think you kind of framed it pretty interestingly. You've got the corporate business that's out there, and we've always kind of had this promotional product business in our business, and we have these screen printers and decorators like you guys are. And I would say, and then there's a whole online retail, which has exploded. It was exploding before COVID. It went crazy during COVID. It settled back down, but to put it in perspective, it's still running high double digits ahead of 2019 where it was before.
Wow.
So that kind of is moving. But I would say in the space that I think what really is gaining traction is kind of what you guys are doing, the longer tail of things, and what you guys are doing from activities. And again, I do think coming out of COVID and everything, we really appreciate activities. We appreciate concerts. We appreciate doing things. And what you guys do and so many others, you provide that experience. I want to document this experience. I want to remember this, and I want to do this. So we see this segment traditionally and what we had kind of prior, and also just the longer tail happening. We talked a little earlier about print on demand.
Yeah.
Print on demand is probably the most explosive thing that's out there, but it's micro, right? We were talking about earlier. It's an order of one, the average order size of one. So, as far as like the explosion of apparel and units and things like that, print on demand is definitely an emerging channel that we're really looking at and seeing a lot of activity in. But in more traditional, longer run, larger run activities, we're seeing that really healthy. I mean, it's like events are happening, sports are happening, concerts, as you guys are so focused on, thank God, are back and really
God
thriving.
For live events.
No, seriously,
Yeah,
I think we all. I mean, I know personally, do not take it for granted. No concert, no Austin City Limits Music Festival. Like, you got to be kidding me. Like,
what do you do?
What do you do?
Right. Yeah.
And you're with so many cool people and fun people, and you're all out there enjoying something. I think that's one of those takeaways that maybe we need a little bit. It was shaken into us, like, wow, to not have that and now to be able to go do that again is awesome.
Yeah. To appreciate it now. I
Absolutely.
was at the Morgan Wallen concert on Saturday, or was it Friday? Yeah, it was on Friday, and just like turn the camera around, take a look at the entire stadium filled up. That's what it's all about.
We went to Duran, aging myself.
There you
a couple
go.
weeks ago. They were in Austin a couple weeks ago.
It's good merch
And,
there.
it was fantastic.
Killer
It was
merch there.
fantastic. It was really cool. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
So in keeping the theme of tech, I see you've got an interesting little
yeah.
woven label that you're wearing.
Let me see if I can get this around here. And
Yeah.
I'll move my mic for a second and be in sound distance. Yeah, so in this sleeve, let me go this way, is an NFC chip. And so what you see here is like the T-shirt, right? So, yeah.
And what is the Fix?
The Fix is a TV series.
Okay.
That we're writing. I'm actually a creator of it, and we've got a pilot written, and we're going to market right now. Kind of talking to studios and talking to producers.
Nice.
There we go.
And so we go talk to Netflix. I'm going to say, why don't you buy my TV series, and how about buy 1 million of these shirts as well?
Yeah.
Because
the name is close to Flicks.
almost
the Fix.
What this does is when you put your phone here. Let me open it up, make sure we got it going. So you put your phone here, and up pops a
URL.
URL.
Yeah.
You hit that URL, and it goes to the trailer for the Fix.
Nice.
So you can imagine.
Give us the quick elevator pitch on the Fix.
Give us the verbal trailer.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So you got to go back to the 70s. It's the mid 70s.
So Rich, you were just born right around then.
Yeah.
I was born in '81, sir.
Oh, wow. I'm way before you guys. So in the mid 70s, late mid 70s, U.S. is in a big recession. So Nixon's trying to get out of it. And they co-opt this Yale PhD in economics to come over and like fix the economy. He's like, well, I have an idea. Why don't we take sports gambling, which is completely fragmented, not controlled at all, no scale. Let's flip it from the player to the platform. Let's own the teams. Let's own the coaches. Let's own the refs. Let's own everything. Take sports gambling, take the money that sports gambling generates, push it back through Wall Street, pump it back in the economy. We'll prop the economy up kind of like artificially, make it look like we're doing better than we are until we get things figured out. And so they end up colluding with the mafia, Wall Street, and the White House to create this conglomerate, which becomes the largest and most profitable company in the country. They end up creating ESPN because they need a 24/7 news cycle. They find Bill Gates and Paul Allen programming in Albuquerque. They connect them with IBM. They tell IBM, you're not going to buy DOS, you're going to license DOS, which was one of the worst business decisions ever made. We're going to make you the richest guy in the world, Bill Gates, but you work for us now. We want a gambling terminal on every desk in 20 years. So it's filmed through the 70s. Each season's by decade. So it starts with the 70s, how they build the platform. Then the 80s, they actually scale the platform and grow it. And Vegas flips from the mob to Wall Street in the 80s as well, in the back of junk bonds, funded by the government. So they flip that. They also begin to build the internet information superhighway during the 80s to get the internet started. Well, they launched in the 90s, they launched the internet, which is wired for porn and gambling. So the mafia takes all the
same
porn.
today.
Same today.
Nothing's changed.
Still built for that.
Changed.
Yeah.
But the mob takes all the hard corners for porn in the internet, and the PhDs build online gambling.
Yeah.
And so they freeze that up. And so it goes through that whole process of basically it's the four pillars of the show are really pop culture, technology, politics, and sports gambling, and how this whole thing is basically fixed.
Yeah.
And the tagline is nothing with this much money involved is left to chance. So it's basically, it's a very provocative look at how we look
can't
at,
wait.
That's my kind of show.
That's how we look at the world.
That's my
Michelle,
kind of
all of
show.
us are like, oh, what does this come out?
Yeah.
Let me scan the shirt real quick.
But how did
there
you
go.
how did you get into that? And even I got a little bit of your background. Can you go just a little bit earlier? Like,
Sure.
what is your background? And then I'm more interested. How did you even get into having a pilot or
Sure.
building this
Yeah.
up?
Well, first of all, I'm a gambler, and I figured I could not be this bad at something. There's no way I'm this wrong about everything.
No.
Yeah, I know my limits.
There's
I know
worse.
my limits.
As do
Trust
I.
me, there's always worse.
I lose $20, I'm out.
Yeah, so
Folding.
I figured, I go, something's got to be up, right? Something's got to be happening here. So this started back when I was just out of college, thinking, something's got to be up here. So I've been kind of noodling around the idea forever, and it's one of those ideas that becomes more and more relevant almost every day. And it's interesting as you watch the progression of kind of gambling. I mean, back in the day when I was start gambling, you had to find the lines on the back of the newspaper, mind you, newspaper back page.
Yeah,
It's this
remember
little
those?
section, and you're looking at these lines.
Your fingers are all
you're right.
blind.
Yeah.
You get the ink on
Now,
your
if you
fingers.
you watch ESPN or anything else, the lines are all right there. We've been basically conditioned over the last 20, 30 years for gambling. And everything has an over-under. You can see a line. You can see everything. I mean, think about, so in 1976, I mean, it's a historical fiction kind of platform. So you take actual events and weave them in. Imagine like a Forrest Gump, right? You watch Forrest Gump and like all these things that actually happened. Was he really there? But like, in 1976, Jimmy the Greek joined the CBS sports broadcasting team and started predicting games. This had never happened before. Now, this all starts in 1974. And by the way, in 1979, when they launched ESPN, guess who owned ESPN when it was launched?
The government.
J. Paul Getty, one of the wealthiest guys in the country, who obviously benefits from the Wall Street manipulation of the dollars moving back through their corporations.
It's all fixed.
But why would J. Paul Getty own
fix.
ESPN? Why would he start
Yeah.
ESPN? So anyway, it's been kind of fun to, over time, the story's evolved and it continues to the premise has always been pretty consistent, but it's been neat to see how technology and how the proliferation of gambling, ultimately the series ends and in the, it doesn't, maybe it never ends, but it progresses to a point where they the golden rule in this whole thing is made back in the mid 70s. They're like, look, we're going to flip this whole thing on its side, control everything. The one thing you can't do is affect the player. The player's untouchable. Whereas before, 1919 World Series, the Black Sox game, completely fixed. I mean, we haven't gone backwards since 1919. Let's put it that way, right? So it was fixed in 1919, all player driven. So these guys flip it and say, you cannot do that. The Yale guy, the Yale PhD is like, you can't do that. We're going to own everything but the player. The player cannot be touched. If they make a great play, we lose the bet.
Yep.
We're going to tilt everything this way because you have to have variability in an economy for it to survive. Plus, you need legend and lore, and you need these guys to be
And
heroes.
authenticity, yeah,
exactly.
right,
you need heroes. You
Yeah.
don't want to kill sports, right? So these guys are our sports guys. These guys are the players. In the mid 2000s, they make a call, and they reverse a play, and they kind of crack this agreement that's been 30, 40 years in the making, and that begins to unravel the whole operation until they get to the late, kind of mid, 2010, 2012. And they start saying, well, let's legalize gambling, and let's figure out a way to legalize gambling. But we all still make money. We all still own it. I mean, that like DraftKings, Jerry Jones, Robert Kraft, they own like 4% of DraftKings. So everyone's wired in this thing.
Yeah.
And in 2018,
Everyone's got a piece.
So one thing you
Still
need to know
fixed.
is like
Yeah.
in 1992, there was a law passed called the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act. President H.W. Bush signed into law. And that law basically froze sports gambling to Nevada and Delaware, and very small, basically no proliferation was allowed. That law was repealed in 2018, 1 month after H.W. Bush passed away. And that's what enabled DraftKings, FanDuel,
Yep.
and all the states now have their own gambling.
Yep.
So the last kind of piece of the series is them figuring out, how do we do this? How do we wire all of ourselves up so when we turn this thing on, it's legal, but we still control everything. So the fix in broad daylight, if you
Nice. I love how this turned into a gambling history.
Yeah, well, I love it. It's so interesting.
I
will.
love
Well, we all have to wear clothes.
And what's
Yeah,
what is the
merch.
future of it? Is the future just big giant platforms that sell merch and gamble and whatever,
Yeah, I
and
think
face
that's right.
wash, whatever.
Look at sports, right? What does sports become? I mean, sports is a business.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Sports is an absolute business.
Big
We
business.
were talking about Fanatics earlier, right? It's a phenomenal business, and it's all about the merch. It's all about the show. It's all about the experience.
Yeah.
And I think it's great. I mean, sports has always been about experience. I mean, going back to Big Joe Green with the Coke and the kid with the jersey is like, hey, or have a jersey over his shoulder. It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, that's what sports has always been emotional about, an experience. So merch and the experience plays into it big time. So yeah, I think it is all about that going forward.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's interesting how you can intertwine those things.
Yeah.
Like you would guess they would be so separate and far away.
Yeah.
We actually have started calling items that we make collectibles.
Absolutely.
Because like
Absolutely.
that's really what it's about. It's about like a time in history
They are.
and something that you like are in love with, whether it's a band or a sport, wherever the case may be,
Absolutely.
and you want to momentize.
Some people are waiting in lines for 2 days for these things.
Yeah.
2 days, 3 days for merch. So
Yeah, and that becomes the experience too.
Yeah.
As kind of crazy as that sounds, that's a bonding experience, right? You're in line for a couple of days with some people waiting on merch, and you're going to get it, and you got it, and you see the show. I mean, it is like really emotional and really attached. I mean, think about it. I mean, T-shirts have always been that way.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a huge pile of T-shirts. I don't wear anymore, but I can name every one of them, and I would never
This is
throw
where I
them
was.
away.
it could take you back to a time,
Absolutely.
a moment in
You
time.
take them back, and
Yeah.
you remember that. You're like, oh man, that was so cool, and that was great. I mean, yeah. So I think, and it's just advancing now, and I think it's great. What you guys do, I mean, you guys are building memories, building experiences for these bands and these events that are going on. I think it's great. We love being part of the machine that does that and part of enabling that, and I think it is cool. So it does intersect in a way.
Yeah,
in the
no,
business.
totally.
Yeah, no, I think this was great. Also, just the story that you just shared is like you're CMO, right? Is that your role?
Yeah.
CMO, $2 billion company, but also have time for side projects and things that you're passionate about. It's inspiring for all of us that are running businesses and doing things at a high level.
Find time because it does.
Right.
It motivates you in your job. It makes you better at your job. It frees up your mind. It frees up you to think about stuff. Take some time. What you're passionate about. Be creative about something. And it always filters back in, for me at least. It filters back in and makes me better at what I do.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, the last thing I was going to ask was how many team members, maybe in Alpha as a whole, but like how many are in this Chicago location?
Okay, yeah. Overall, we have just over about 3,000 team members across the country.
Yep.
And in Chicago, 300 in that particular facility. And so for us, it's a huge focus at Alpha Broder, and with over 3,000 team members and folks on the team, employee empowerment's become a real charge for us. And it's and then, again, it didn't start with COVID, but that actually made it even more interesting. But to really empower our team, and we started doing employee engagement surveys and reaching out to the team and saying once a year getting feedback. And taking that feedback and implementing it, and it's really interesting when a group and a culture is about being heard, and it's amazing because really look, most of the folks on that 3,000 work in our distribution centers. We have an office group. It's kind of spread out now. That COVID. I live in Austin. We're based in Philadelphia. I'm up in Philadelphia quite a bit, but the team's working from home.
National,
and so it was really interesting to do this because this empowerment and this voice that our team has, I think, is a bonding element for us. And I do think one of the challenges coming out of this work from home culture and all these things, and I've got my son works at Deloitte and he's 3 years out of school, and he goes to the office a couple days a week, but when I was first in, that's where you met everybody. That's where you got tied to the company. It's like that's where you learned everything.
Yeah.
And so there's a big missing.
Met your significant other or whatever.
Absolutely, that's where you figured a lot of stuff out. And there's a missing element there. And so I think for us, we've this empowerment, and we call it AB Connection that comes out once a quarter, talks about all the promotions and all the people that just joined the company and people's anniversaries and everything like that.
Cool.
And it's a way to tie folks together. So so 3,000 plus and 300 here in Chicago.
Well, what's just one of those things you can leave us with? Like, what was one thing that you heard from the team members, and then you went ahead and implemented, and it just rocked?
Well, I'll tell you, this robotics thing really is a great
cool.
example of that.
Nice.
We were really struggling with schedules and consistency of schedule, and just that whole kind of work-life balance, especially through those last couple of years where things were just kind of out of whack, right? You had this kind of downtime, then you had this massive uptime, and you were trying to do it all through pretty much the same mechanism you had before, and you're doing something totally different. So it really, and the robotics was kind of an idea before COVID, but post that we really got into it, and we used it, and we used a big driver was feedback from the team. We need something to solve this problem. Now, you could look at it from a business standpoint too. We need to improve our accuracy, improve our quality. This temp stuff is kind of just really hard to manage. But that voice there, and that's why when we did it, it was there was kind of like obviously robotic. We talked about this earlier too. It's like do robots make everyone go away? There was obviously a natural concern of, well, how are the teams going to take it? Right. And our head of operations, who ran the project and made it all happen, he was very confident. He's like, I'm confident this is going to be seen as a positive, and I think that data kind of helped him feel that confidence, and we saw it come through in spades. Nice. So it's a really cool story, I think, to kind of great for the business, but great for the team. And then when you can do that, that's the win-win.
Yeah, I think that's a great perspective.
Yeah, well, I mean, thank you so much.
Absolutely,
this
guys.
was great.
Thanks for stopping by.
We're gonna have to do another one when we get you back. We're gonna go deep.
We'll dive deeper.
Yeah, like
gambling, history, all
we'll
kinds.
Do it. We'll
do we know when it's coming out yet?
Well,
the
we're
fix?
right. We just finished. The pilot is written.
Pilot is
okay. Written, and
right.
we're in the process of meeting with some agents, producers, studios right now.
Maybe when you get picked up and the first season comes out, we'll unpack
first of all, we're
it
going to need a lot more of these. We're going to need a lot more.
You know
who
to call.
And
you know who to call for the merch.
We know we're going to get these shirts.
Absolutely.
I know that.
Thanks, Dave.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
You bet, guys. Thank y'all.